So Kamala Harris just gave her DNC speech, and she's painted as the greatest candidate the Democrats have ever nominated. I'm not convinced. So the first thing she said in her speech, she thanked Joe Biden for their extraordinary service together and handing the torch to her. And this is kind of dumb to me because they literally hid Joe Biden and kept him from a primetime speaking slot. Even Joe Biden's close aides have said, we literally handed her the campaign, and we feel that Joe Biden deserved a primetime speaking spot. That's how the powers that be work, Joe Biden. This is a ruthless business. Once they're done with you, they just throw you to the side. It's okay, all these people who are in charge are just backstabbers anyways. Are you really surprised they did this to you, Biden? She then, at the beginning of her speech, took the time to thank Tim Walz and said he's going to be an excellent vice president. Hopefully the Democrats aren't counting their chickens before they hatch. I remember this in 2016. Hillary Clinton was guaranteed to win. The hubris on these people is astounding sometimes. She then went on and said this is the most important election of our lifetimes. I remember I heard this back in 2016. If Donald Trump was going to be elected, it would end America. Do I think this is the most important election in our lifetime? Every election is the most important election of our lifetime. Don't worry, 2028 will be the most important election of our lifetime again. This is coming from the party of LBJ, who said if their opponent won, there would be a nuclear war. Then she went on about Donald Trump's court cases. I mean, of course we're going to bring these things up. I've made my feelings clear on this. I think it's a political witch hunt. Not saying Donald Trump never did anything wrong. It's just that we've had other presidents who have done way worse things like greenlighting torture, and apparently they can't be held accountable. But no, it's the only great orange man who needs to be held accountable, I guess. Stop pretending that Donald Trump is the only bad apple in the group of elites, because he's not. Then she goes on how she's going to spend our way into prosperity. And this is annoying to me because both Trump and Kamala will not address the issue of our national debt. It's over $35 trillion. And soon the interest of our debt is going to be more than military spending. But politicians don't actually want to address the national debt. It's inconvenient to their message, especially Kamala Harris's message, because she's just leveraging your children and grandchildren's future so she can look good. Then she goes into Roe versus Wade. Here we are with the Roe versus Wade issue. She talks about how she's gone across the country and said she's heard all these women's horror stories about how they weren't able to access reproductive rights because they were living in a red state. And I think that most people believe in the 3 exceptions. Guess what? That's 1% of abortions. So the other 99% are okay because, oh God, it's just inconvenient in my life that I'm pregnant. Don't get me wrong, I'm pro-choice. I trust women to actually make that decision. But stop saying that pro-life people just hate women. They think it's a life. And I do believe in the real concept of unborn child. However, we've learned in these red states there are no exceptions. Even in the law, if there is exceptions, like the woman in Texas, she had to literally flee her own state in order to get reproductive care when it actually threatened her health. So I don't believe in making abortion illegal, but I also respect people who are pro-life because philosophically it makes sense. And then she goes on about gun control policies. I've already gone into this issue on my channel. I'm pro-gun, but I don't think you can just legislate this problem away, which politicians think they actually have the ability to do. We have a sea of weapons in the United States. I don't think they're going anywhere. And then she goes on about her immigration policy and wants to sign into law what Joe Biden tried to pass. And Donald Trump did kill that bill because he didn't want to give Joe Biden a win before the election, which is fucked up on his part because the bill was written by a conservative Republican named Lankford. It had no amnesty in it. It had no pathway to citizenship. And the last president who tried to do something about immigration was George W. Bush, and he was opposed on that legislation by his own party. I do think the United States should make it easier for people to immigrate here. What's really annoying about this whole issue is we have sanctuary cities in the United States, and then the red border states started busing immigrants over to the blue states, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're overwhelmed. Oh, that whole message about we love people and we want them to immigrate here. We don't actually want to deal with the consequences ourselves. We just want the border states to deal with everything, and I don't think that's fair either. And then she goes on how we're going to support the troops. Democrats or Republicans, they don't support the troops. They support the war machine. Because if you actually supported our troops, you wouldn't send them overseas to try to impose our value system to countries that have no interest in being democracies. And if you're still watching, we're at the big topic now, Israel and Palestine. She affirms she's a staunch supporter of Israel. Both parties are staunch supporters of Israel. There's literally no difference between any of these politicians. And my biggest question, if you're watching right now and you were one of the uncommitted voters, are you going to continue to let the Democrats just spit in your face? Are you actually going to have real teeth and actually sit home or just not vote for president? Because if they're just going to corner you like this, being like, hey, it's either us or the Republicans, and I don't believe giving power to someone who's gaslighting you. My question is, are you going to let them corner you, or are you actually going to show your teeth this November? We'll see if you actually mean what you say. because all these left-wing streamers out there who keep calling what Israel's doing is a genocide. I'm not going to call it a genocide. I'll wait for the ICJ's ruling because I'm not qualified to make that decision. But for all those people who keep saying stuff like this, and you're going to vote for Kamala anyway, you have no principles just because Orange Man bad. And then she tried to say we're all in this together. I don't know if you live in the United States watching this. You can't claim that the opposite party and the other people who think differently and the other people who support that candidate are supporting an authoritarian and a wannabe fascist. Oh God, I said the F word. And then claim this guy is somehow the end of democracy. And then she capped off the speech saying that we are the heirs of the greatest democracy in the world. And this is where I fundamentally disagree with Kamala Harris. It's an oligarchy. You literally would not be where you are if it weren't for the Democratic donors. Period. Because we could have tried this so-called democracy back in 2020 when you ran. No one voted for you. They don't want you as the candidate. The question is the blind hatred of the voters strong enough to actually elect you president? We're going to have to wait and see.